tonight. We'll be recording this event and it will be also streaming live on Facebook. And we'll share the recording with you all afterwards, so you can share the link with anyone who couldn't make it tonight, but what might be interested. I'm June Okada, and I'm the energy coordinator for the Susitna River Coalition, and we are a small grassroots conservation nonprofit based here in Talkeetna on northern Dena'ina lands. And we are committed to supporting and protecting the Susitna River watershed. We originally formed in response to the proposal of the Susitna-Watana Dam, and since then, our focus has broadened to education and outreach on various projects that have the capacity to impact our watershed. And our speaker series is a big part of that mission, and we want to thank the Jessica Stevens Community Foundation and the Chase Community Councils for supporting us to be able to hold these speaker series, events, and webinars. And we are also supported by generous individual community members. So if you would like to get involved by volunteering or want to donate to SRC, you can do so on our website, and I want to post this to the chat, but I don't know if the chat is working. Oh, Melissa is able to do it. Maybe I'll just put it in here. Hopefully Melissa will get that and put it in the chat. Oh, here, now I can do it. Here's the link to our website. And tonight we have Colleen Fisk. She is the Energy Education Director at REAP, Renewable Energy Alaska Project. And she will be talking about energy efficiency and home weatherization, which we're really excited about. Thanks for coming, Colleen. Before she starts her presentation, I just wanted to announce a few upcoming events that SRC is hosting. This Sunday, October 15th at 5 p.m., we have the Wild Sioux Feast at the Denali Brewing Company in Talkeetna, and this is our annual fundraiser where we feast on dishes created with ingredients that walked, swam, flew, or grew in the Susitna Valley. You bring a dish and get in for free or pay for a ticket, and there'll be lots of food and fun door prizes, and it's a kid-friendly event. And I will put the registration link in the chat for that event. And then we're also going to be hosting 3 movie nights in 3 different communities, one in Wasilla, one in Willow, and one in Talkeetna. And those are coming up really soon. The one in Wasilla is next Tuesday, October 17th at the Wasilla Public Library. And we will be showing 2 short films. One is called Return to Us, which is a short film about the Eklutna Dena'ina people's river restoration and mitigation efforts of the Eklutna Dam. And the other film is called We the Power, and it's a Patagonia film about some public energy organizers in Europe. And I will also post the links. There's kind of a lot of them to the Facebook event pages for that. I hope that worked. And also, I just wanted to briefly mention that SRC is going to be organizing around the Matanuska Electric Association MEA Utility Co-op Board elections for 2024. And if you pay MEA electric bills, you are an MEA member owner, and that means that you are able to vote for the board members and the key bylaw changes. So the MEA board makes really important decisions about where energy comes from. And next year, there's going to be 2 district seats available. One in Susitna East, which is basically the Wasilla area, and one in the Susitna West area, which includes a lot of different communities, all the way down from Port Mackenzie to up to Petersville and Talkeetna. And we need to vote in responsible leaders who will speak up against harmful projects like the Susitna-Watana Dam and find clean alternatives. If you are interested in finding out more about the elections and voting and want to be involved, you can email me at june@susitnarivercoalition.org. And now I just want to introduce you to our speaker tonight. Her name is Colleen Fisk. She works at REAP, and she is the energy education director there since 2016. And she implemented the Alaska Energy Smart and Wind program for schools curriculum in K through 12 classes. And today she'll be discussing ways to reduce your energy use and weatherizing your home. Thanks, Colleen.
Thanks, June. I'm excited to be here today chatting with you all. I'm gonna get my slide presentation up. And are you seeing the right screen or do I need to switch? See, okay, great.
No, we can see your whole slide deck.
Okay, so I need to, you see like my notes and stuff?
We do, yep.
Okay, swap displays. Here we go. This is what, there we go. Okay,
Perfect.
Should be good now. All right. And I have the chat up so I can keep an eye on that as things come up. But as June said, I work for Renewable Energy Alaska Project, or REAP, and a lot of my funding comes from Alaska Housing Finance Corporation to do this program called AK Energy Smart, which is all about energy awareness and focuses a lot on efficiency. So even though I work for this organization that has renewable energy in its name, and while I do educate on renewable energy, a lot of my time is spent on efficiency and weatherization education for K to gray is what I call it. So I do K through 12 outreach, I do teacher trainings, I do public presentations like this for all ages and backgrounds. And so I have compiled some slides here to talk about efficiency and hopefully give you some resources and tools to be able to evaluate energy in your own home and make some changes within your own home. Some really small ones you can start out right away, and then some ways that you can explore maybe some bigger changes and some of the benefits for that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing, of course, is land acknowledgement. So June mentioned that, you know, we're kind of in these traditional lands, and I really like to recognize this, especially as we're talking about energy resources and thinking about how we're using our resources and how to do that wisely. But there have been people who've been living here for thousands of years who have been and continue to be stewards of these lands, including and waters, of course, including, you know, the resources that are part of that and how we use that for energy. So I grew up outside of Wasilla and off Pittman Road and on Denina Alnana lands, and I live again back outside of Wasilla after a couple years out of state and a few years in Anchorage back home here. And I just, you know, it's one of the things I love about the SRC is thinking about our resources, and what I love about my life here and all the things that I've been able to do here, and want to acknowledge the people who have taken care of that and appreciate that. So when we think about energy efficiency and conservation, so this is like using less energy with, sometimes people break it up separately as conservation is behavior choices and efficiency is improved technology and materials, but it's really all related to using less energy. And these are things that we as individuals can do, or that we can do on larger scales, like communities, like what Matanuska Electric can do on larger scales, what we as society can do on how we can use less energy. And there's a lot of benefits to that, right? Like we can save money on our utility bills to do that, but we can also save a lot of our resources. So we have limited resources. A lot of our electricity comes from natural gas, which is projected by the state to have a shortfall by 2027. So there's a lot of resources that we can be able to use, that we can use more efficiently and conserve them and save them. And of course, it's our lowest carbon fuel is efficiency, right? Anything that we don't have to use is going to be our cheapest and lowest carbon fuel. So even solar panels and wind turbines and our renewable energy resources, they have much less impact, but they still have some impact from where those materials come from. So any less energy that you can do, the less impact that you're going to have. We are going to focus a lot on what those cost savings are, but I just do want to kind of keep that in mind as we're thinking about these things that we can do to save energy. So one of the things that, even if you leave now and head home and you're like, okay, thanks, Colleen, that's great, I've heard enough, if nothing else, I want you to check out these energy saving tips resources. So this is a booklet that's published by HFC and Alaska Energy Authority that has, zero cost to expensive upgrades and talks about what those energy saving tips can be. It's really Alaska specific, and you can download it for free off of our website, which is linked here, or AHFC's website also has it. And at the very back of this version of the book, there's an energy assessment checklist. And so that checklist has a way for you to kind of do just like a quick, okay, here's what I know about my house, a couple of things that maybe you can check in your house, and that can give you a really good starting point for thinking about your energy. And a version of that checklist is also on the AK Energy Smart website. So with AK Energy Smart, that website has a lot of free lesson plans for teachers to be able to use for K through 12, but it also has a growing amount of adult education resources like this energy assessment checklist that you can use. So if nothing else, I encourage you to check out that energy saving tips book, especially if you have to leave early today, because that's a great resource for understanding what's going on and getting you started on this. So I'm going to jump in. All right. I want to make sure we have time at the end for questions and that we aren't going, too crazy here. And so the first thing is heating. All right. Our biggest energy used as Alaskans is on heating. Okay. So that is our biggest costs and our biggest resource use. And so this HFC housing needs assessment from 2018. I haven't seen they have another one coming out soon, but it's not out yet. But from 2018, you can see that space heating, no matter what region you are in, is your largest household energy cost by region. So if you're thinking about weatherization and energy savings, this is going to be the biggest bang for your buck. I'm also going to talk about water heating and appliances today, but space heating is by far the biggest impact that you can have for saving energy. And so what can you do? Well, you can do some really simple things like checking and unblocking your air vents, radiators, and registers. So making sure these aren't blocked, because if you have better airflow, then that heat is going to be able to actually move evenly throughout your house. You can make sure that your fireplace is sealed. So make sure that flue is shut whenever it's not in use, or if it's something that's not, other holes that aren't needed anymore. As very important, of course, to not block anything that is supposed to be providing ventilation as part of a heating system. That is something that I've heard happens with unfortunate frequency. So don't just block any old hole, but anything that's not being used for proper ventilation for a heating system, you can think about blocking, see if those are some big energy heat loss areas. It's also really important to have a professional tune your heating system. It's recommended that it's checked every year, and generally systems older than 15 years will have a really big payback by being able to replace them completely. And of course, there's some much more efficient systems, and also things like heat pumps that are coming, that the technology has really improved. So here's a fun photo. Make sure you guys are paying attention. Keep your bunnies off of your vents. All right. I see at least one veterinarian on this call. So, never know what kind of animals are out there. So also related to heating, one of the biggest money savers is if you don't already have a programmable thermostat. If you can do that with your heating system, definitely have a programmable thermostat and then use it. All right, so have that heat turned down as low as is comfortable for you and those in your house, and have it even lower at night or when you're not at home. Because for every degree that you lower it, you can save 2% on your heating bill. It's a really huge savings by being able to reduce that temperature. And, if you, like I said, if you have something, program it. You can set it back to the heat 2 hours before bed, because, then it'll just slowly decrease the temperature. and then increase just before you wake. And whenever anybody's not home, use those vacation settings too. If you have like a smart thermostat, or turning it down when you're going to be gone for a longer period of time can really save a lot of money. Of course, you want to make sure things are staying safe, right? Don't know, people mostly don't turn it down below 60 or 55 degrees, of course, in the winter time, so that you can make sure that it stays at a temperature that your things aren't going to be freezing or causing problems. But whatever is safe and comfortable for you, the more that you can do, the more savings that you're going to have. So those are the big things on heating. And related to heating is insulation and air sealing. And so what's really interesting here is that with the new federal incentives for costs, we currently this year can get up to $1,200 for tax incentives, $1,200 tax incentives for purchase costs of insulation air sealing. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but I wanted to get you guys thinking about that, as there are incentives for doing these things as well. So if it costs money to buy things to do the upgrades, there are some tax incentives that are already available for us to use. So here's a fun photo, older photo that I've used a lot for many years, but still really fun and cute. And so the biggest thing is identifying major air leaks. And you can do, of course, you can use your hand to feel it if it's really major, but people also use things like pieces of string, or like mini smoke machines, or incense, or there's a lot of different ways, feather or something, to see if something is having air leak. And then when you identify those, you can do things like caulking for those cracks and gaps to be able to save that energy. You can replace thresholds or attach sweeps on doors, or any weather stripping, especially on exterior doors, to be able to improve their energy efficiency. And windows, a lot of times people think that they need to replace their windows, but you can actually do a lot of repairing and improving the insulation yourself by adding that, caulking insulation around the window. Unless you have single pane windows in your house, generally it's more cost effective to repair and improve the insulation, or even using things like the plastic window coverings that you can get at stores to be able to add a little extra layer of efficiency there with windows. Another thing that I heard a tip was make sure they're fully closed and latched. Like I just did this recently. I went around all the windows that I normally open in the summertime and like relatch them so that it improves that seal that happens on that window and reduce that heat loss. And incentives, if you do get recommended to do new windows, or if you do have those single pane windows, there are incentives for up to $600 for new windows, and that's every year. So, if you do, and I think it's $300 per window, up to $600. So if you like do 2 windows this year and 2 windows next year, you can get $600 twice on those windows for the 2 different tax years. So there's also efficient exhaust fans. So if you are doing a lot of sealing and you don't have good, airflow in your house because of that, you do want to make sure that you're not creating issues for mold, right? If you're not having enough airflow or other poor quality, and you can install really efficient exhaust fans that you can replace like in your bathroom, that you just make sure that you run, and they are really quiet and much more efficient than older exhaust fans that are out there. And the biggest thing is getting an energy rating or audit. So energy audit is kind of the overall term, and there is like energy raters that Alaska Housing Finance Corporation certifies. And you can get up to $150 tax rebate starting this year for any energy audit that you do, any energy audit that you pay for. And that will really give you those specific recommendations for what would be able to save you the most money. And so for those energy raters or auditors, they can do things like estimate existing insulation R values, they can inspect vapor barriers, they can evaluate attic and foundation insulation, and then they provide those recommendations to you for what is going to make the most sense for your house to save energy. And so AHFC has this rater list to be able to look at that. And again, you get that $150 back. I don't know what the going rate is. I heard one person guess at $500 that the current rate is for an energy audit, so it's not cheap. However, if that's something you can do and you get that 150 back, it is a very helpful tool because they can do that recommendation. Thanks, June. Appreciate you throwing the links in the chat for me. All right, so for hot water, so your domestic hot water, there's a few things you can do here too to save energy. So we have our heating as our number one. And so we've talked about like our heating systems and our insulation and air sealing. But now our our next big energy cost in our homes are hot water. So again, turn down the heat. All right. In this case, it is really important to make sure that the temperature is staying safe. You do not want to go below 120 degrees Fahrenheit, but often the hot water heaters are set to a higher setting than they need to be, like that 140 degree mark. And so turning it down to 120 can save 6 to 10% on your energy bill. And you can also check to make sure that your water is staying at 120 degrees by like running your faucet for a couple minutes and just using a thermometer to see, oh yeah, okay, it's actually staying at 120 degrees. So if you're concerned about that, you can check it that way. But it can be another big energy saver for related to heating. And then other things that you can do related to water is, of course, don't let the water run, especially if it's warm water. Fixing those leaky faucets and running toilets are actually, these are things that I like when I bought my house. I had to learn how to fix a running toilet, and it was easier than I thought. YouTube is a wonderful thing to be able to teach you things, right? And so doing things like low flow shower heads and having aerators on faucets can really help you save. And if it's recommended by the manufacturer, some of the older water heaters, you can even add a blanket to them to add that insulation. If they weren't built with, really good insulation in mind, then you can even add a blanket. But again, you have to check to make sure that it makes sense or is appropriate for your specific water heater. And then like really big cost, if you want to think about this, is, if you have a really older system, is getting a newer efficient one. So getting an upgrade for it. And a lot of times systems are oversized for what you need, especially as things become more efficient, like dishwashers and your and clothes washers, and you're having those low flow faucets, then you don't generally need as much water maybe as you first thought, or as the house first demanded when it was first built. And so you could also consider thinking about a smaller size water heater that might make more sense for your house. Okay, so that was water heating. Electricity we're going to dive into now. And so electricity, one of the biggest ones is lighting. All right. And so some of the things, we can think about really easy, right? Turn off lights when not in use. Switch to LEDs. These are probably things that maybe many of you have already done or already thought about. But there's also things like there are Energy Star fixtures and lamps. So if you're replacing things or putting new things in, you can also, the actual lamps themselves can also affect how much electricity those bulbs are using. And then using timers and if you're in an appropriate situation, maybe even occupancy sensors. I go into a lot of schools, so a lot of occupancy sensors in classrooms, which is nice so that teachers or students don't have to always remember to turn those off, but that they come on and off automatically. And with those timer, I'll get to that in a second, but I'll talk a little bit more about timers. But you can also group and plug things into power strip. It's October. Start thinking about those vampires that you might see around this time of year. And there is such a thing called a vampire or phantom loads. And so those are things that are using electricity when they are off, or when you think that they are off. You're not using them for anything, but they're still drawing some electricity. And a really small example would be like the clock on a microwave. It's a really small phantom load, but a bunch of those really small phantom loads can really add up. I've heard estimates of like anywhere between 10 and 30% of someone's household electricity use could be attributed to phantom loads. So even though each one of them might be pretty small, they can really add up. And so one culprit that I've heard that used to be really bad was things like cable boxes. Now, I think a lot fewer people have cable boxes now, but that's an example of something that could be drawing a lot of electricity. And so there's things like, turn off stuff when you're not using it, using those sleep modes, take advantage of that technology that's already there. Some power adapters and chargers, like if they're getting warm, you can tell, but nothing's being charged, then you know that that's some electricity that's being drawn and being wasted. And so you can do things, of course, like strips, or if you have a bunch of stuff that is dependent on, like for example, smart strips. So if it's like, okay, everything else is only on when the TV is on, for example. And so the other stuff is not going to be drawing electricity. Or I have like a little power strip here in my office that I hit off. And so like my printer and my monitor and everything goes off when I'm not here in my office to save that electricity use. And so timers, this is a really handy one for several different things. So one of the first ways that I was introduced to timers is when I was doing house sitting in high school. And so it would be like, oh yeah, set it on a timer. So then the lamps came on and off at automatic times, even if nobody was there. But there's some really useful things to be able to do this. We use it now for our holiday lights. Okay, those indoor outdoor string lights. Reduce night pollution in the middle of the night, but still have lovely lights in the morning and evening when it's dark out in our winter. If you use heat tape for anything, you can also put those on timers, maybe just during the coldest, overnight during the coldest times. Set yourself a reminder to make sure to unplug the heat tapes in the springtime. It's really important. Block heaters, it's recommended about 2 hours to have those plugged in before you leave. So instead of having the block heater running all night, then using a timer to make sure that it's only coming on, say at like 6 a.m. if you're leaving at 8 a.m. Really handy that way. Okay, so with electronics, there's also Energy Star appliances. I think a lot of us have seen those. And it's a lot less water use to use your dishwasher than to hand wash because it's just so much more efficient. They can really recycle that water use. Clean out the lint from your dryers. Okay, check the temperature of your fridge and freezer. So the fridge can be between 36 and 38 degrees Fahrenheit, and the freezer can be 0 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So any colder than that, you could maybe turn up the temperature a little bit, and you can get like these fridge freezer thermometers to check it, or other kinds of thermometers to kind of see what that temperature is. And you can also, one of the interesting things is you can check for leaks in the door seal. So if you like put a piece of paper and close the door on it on your fridge and see if it comes out easily, then your door seal maybe isn't that great. So you could look into maybe replacing your door seal. Okay, so for electricity, we have on the AK Energy Smart website, we have this electricity use calculator. So you can enter your electricity rate. And so here, for those of us who get electricity from Matanuska or even Chugach Electric, our electricity rate is right around that 20 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's not already entered in there for you. You have to know that. I'm telling you right now, 20 cents per kilowatt hour here for us in the Matsu in Anchorage. So if you enter that information, then you can put in the electricity use of different appliances and see how much that costs you, like per day, per month, and per year. And so this example is for like 4 LED bulbs that are each 10 watts each. And you can look up the wattage of different appliances, or there's electricity monitors that you can use to measure electricity. Some things have them labeled on them, of course, like light bulbs, how much watts they use. But this is a good way for you to figure out, okay, well, maybe this thing uses a lot of electricity, but I don't use it that often, so it doesn't cost me that much, and can really help you identify what would going to be saving you the most energy and money. So to wrap up those efficiency and weatherization tips, conservation or behavior change is free, right? That is maybe not always easy, but it is free. And some efficiency, like improved technology or materials, may cost you money up front, but it will save you in the long run. And some measures are relatively low cost and do it yourself. And I'm going to talk here in a little bit more about some of the incentives that have come through from the Inflation Reduction Act as well. So what I also want to mention is that it's really helpful to measure. I kind of like your energy use, or at least track your energy use. So I kind of mentioned that already with the electricity use calculator. But if you're getting your electricity from a utility, unless you're off grid, right, you're getting electricity from utility. So it's really nice to be able to track that. It has things like it shows your electricity use over time, over a year. And so you can say, oh, why is it so? That's weird. That's way higher than it was this time last year, right? So you can do things like checking this, making sure things aren't going higher than what you expect for the number of kilowatt hours that you're using. And you can do this for a lot of us probably get our heat from NSTAR as well. Maybe not, at least here in the core Matsu area. And so these are things that you can do: becoming aware of your habits and usage, using electricity monitor, fridge, freezer, thermometer can really help you identify those things. And you can really save a lot of money on your bills if you're keeping track and paying attention to those things and making those small changes. But you can also make, oh yeah, there's an example of electricity monitor. You can also make some really bigger changes that there are some federal incentives for. So the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed last year at the federal level has a lot in it. All right. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this. All right. I tried to pick out some things that were really specific to efficiency and weatherization. And there's kind of two main ways that we can think about these incentives that are coming from the Inflation Reduction Act. There are these point of sale rebates. So like if you go to SBS or Home Depot or Ace or whatever, and you're going to buy a new appliance or, weatherization materials, then there will be a new like well-insulated door, right? There will be rebates when you buy it. So you don't have to pay as much when you buy it. Those are not available yet. That the federal guidelines just were released this summer, late summer, and it's going to be administered state by state. So the states still have to develop those. Now, Alaska Housing Finance Corporation is going to be the one they are working on developing these, but they're not available yet. And the earliest they're going to be available is next year. So we still got a ways before that happens. However, there are some tax credits that are available now and related to weatherization. There's a lot of other tax credits related to other things too, like solar panels and electric vehicles and heat pumps. But specific to things like weatherization, these are what are available. So we have up to $1,200 for insulation and air sealing. So those things like the caulking and the weather stripping and insulation, especially like adding more insulation to your attic is one of the best things you can do too on insulation. All right, doors, $500 per door. Windows, okay, $600. Energy audits, please. Energy audits, really want to hit that one. $150. And these are, this resets every year. So if you do some now, it's not like you can't do more again later and still get credit for it. And that's why I'm trying to hit these energy audits so hard, is because they can help you prioritize what those things can be that are going to get you the best bang for your buck. And so they can do that prioritization, and you can start some of these projects now and get some of those credits now and then continue. And it resets every year until 2033. So we've got 10 years of these potential credits. So that can really add up and make a huge difference. So you can start thinking about these things and start making those changes and get credits every year. You can learn more about this on the IRS website that we have here. There are credits deductions website. And obviously I'm not a tax professional, so have to give the required caveat, talk to a tax professional about what is appropriate for you. But if you don't know that these are available, then you can't take advantage of them. So please look into them. This is something that you're wondering about. And so this is what's available now, right? So these are the credits now that you can use today and get credit on your taxes next year. What are going to be happening, these future point of sale rebates, these are some of the things that we'll start to see. Things like upgrading your breaker box, getting induction stove and cooktop that's really efficient, improving your electric wiring, getting heat pumps for things like dryers or your heaters or water heaters, right? And so those are really efficient going to be, especially as we start seeing concerns with our natural gas limitations and cook inlet, really thinking about these things so that we can take advantage of it. And those, like I said, things that aren't having to do with efficiency and weatherization, like your solar panels or 30% tax credit, those are all also there and available for you. And there is some that is related on income based. So rebates 100% of the cost for incomes, 80% or less of AMI, which I can't remember what AMI stands for right now, but sure, area median income. There it is. That's what that was. There it is. Area median income. And so, but other things, 50% of the cost for incomes, 80 to 100%, 50%. So things to think about, to pay attention to, thinking about what you might want to do in the future and take advantage of, start that planning. And then I also want to point out, so Rewiring America is a national nonprofit organization. They have this awesome website that has a bunch of information about these like electrification and efficiency and weatherization improvements that you can make, including a calculator that is based on your household size, income, and zip code. So I definitely recommend checking that out. Again, it's going to be, really dependent. It doesn't really get into like your specifics, but can give you a starting point, I think, to think about. And just the information they have on their website, I find very useful and well presented. So the last thing is I have some more links here, just kind of like, okay, you want to dive into this more. So energy.gov and HFC, there's a couple links here from them for resources that you can use to learn more about these things and what's Alaska specific in terms of, HFC has an efficiency, whole stuff on efficiency and learning more, but also on those tax credits that we're going to be seeing and what they're kind of expecting to happen. But then also, if you're like, this stuff is great, I want to learn even more about how to do home energy and like how to talk about this and do things and what are the science behind it. There's this cool University of Alaska Bristol Bay campus has these awesome classes on sustainable energy, including this home energy basics class that's all online. And like you don't even have any Zoom meeting time. So if you want to learn more about this, you can take this class, and they tip it. Then you can ask them about, you can either audit it for free, or they have, if you're interested in the credit, they also have some funds that you can ask them about that might cover the cost of the credit. So they have some cool classes. And if you want to learn more about this, I recommend checking this out, including this home energy basics class that starts next week. I think it's the 16th already. So that's another cool one to learn about and to check out if you want to learn a lot more about this stuff. So kind of some main points here. All right. You do not have to be an expert to start saving energy. I started at REAP. I was hired because I had an education background and I could teach stuff. I did not have an energy background, but I learned, right? And so you can also learn, can all keep learning. You don't have to be an expert to start. And there's a lot of things you can do at little to no cost. There's tax incentives that are already available now for more efficiency and weatherization. I really hope you keep spreading the word. I know there weren't a ton of people here on the webinar tonight, but I hope that you can share this with others, maybe share the recording with others so that we can keep sharing these resources, and maybe something will spark with somebody that can really make a big difference. So I haven't seen any questions come in yet. Melissa, is there anything that's come in on Facebook? Or
I think Melissa is dealing with kids right now.
aha, okay. Kids, our family.
Yeah, does anybody, if anyone has any questions, you can type it into the Q&A. I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of folks in Alaska are talking about heat pumps lately, and I think people are interested to find out more. Maybe you can tell us just a little bit more about heat pumps and how they work. And I know that you just recently purchased one, and maybe you can tell us like how it's working for you.
Yeah. So heat pumps, they are considered a semi-renewable technology. They work like a reverse refrigerator. So if you think about your refrigerator and how it has coils in the back, and it's extracting the heat out of the refrigerator and pushing it out to keep that inside cold. All right, so that's how, like, it's using refrigerants to be able to do that. And so a heat pump also works like that. It pulls the heat out of the air that you may not think about is very warm, but there's still some there, and it pulls it out and it puts it into your house. And it's considered semi-renewable because it's not like an electric resistance heater. Like if you think about, a little space heater, or you think about electric baseboard, because it's using the heat that's in the air it's just transferring heat instead of creating heat. And so it can be more than 100% efficient because anyway, and that's a whole other thing, but it's very efficient. And we built a barn, and then we insulated part of it and turned it into an office for me. And so I'm using a heat pump right now for my home office, and it's working out pretty well for me. I'm using a ducted one because there's kind of two areas in this office. And so I have two ducts going into this part of the barn to heat the barn. And I really like it. And we have like a smart thermostat set up with it. So I can just adjust the temperature just like any other type of heating system. And we've had it on. I haven't compared electric bills yet. We've had it on for just over a full month now. And so I can't say I've looked at what that change is compared to last year at this time yet. It's definitely gone up on our electric bill, but not as much as I initially expected. So that's kind of cool. And there's a lot of incentives for heat pumps as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, I still need another backup. Generally, you still need another backup source of heat. They don't work well below like -10 or -20 Fahrenheit. So, especially in areas where it gets regularly that cold in the winter time, it's very important to have a backup heat source. And generally people like to have a backup heat source anyway, right? Like in my house, we use natural gas and we have a firewood stove, right? So it's just kind of nice to have more than one way. It's very important for our health and safety, and also important for heat pumps. Hopefully that was not too technical of an answer.
Does it work the other way around to cool your house as well?
Oh, yes. Thank you. That is very important. That's a cool thing about it, is that it can also work as an air conditioner. So you can flip it around to cool your house. So as our summers, this summer, not so much, but generally our summers are getting warmer. And so that will be nice in the future to have AC in my office here.
Yeah, I'd be interested to find out like how much electricity it ended up using for you.
Yeah, I'll have to I'll pull that. I can send you an email about that when I think about it to check that out.
Cool.
Yeah.
We do have one more question. And this person is asking, does closing blinds, curtains help with window heat loss?
It does help. Yes, especially if you have something that's fully closing the windows. I know when I lived in like a basement apartment in Anchorage and I would close it, I would get a lot more condensation on my windows when I did that. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But it also wasn't great airflow in that basement apartment. So that's part of it. But it does help with heat loss. Just have to watch out for that moisture and humidity so that you don't have mold buildup on your windows when you do that. So that can be, you don't want to have impact that for air quality in your house.
What do you do if there is condensation?
So you can get a dehumidifier for your house. So if you're having issues with high humidity, then you can get a dehumidifier to be able to pull that. And then just make sure that you're regularly cleaning your windowsills if there is still some condensation, so that you don't have that mold buildup, as like, if there's some that kind of drops down as it goes. Yep.
And is there anything you recommend that might work better than curtains?
So the things that you can do is you can get those kits that are like plastic that you put over the layer of your house. And I did that in a different apartment I lived in Anchorage, and I used a hair dryer, and it's just a hair dryer to like seal it on the outside. So it's not like anything really fancy. And then it holds tight, and then it helps it basically provides another layer. It's not as much as like a full, vacuum seal second or third layer with the glass, but it still definitely provides some insulation to trap that air and reduce the heat loss. Definitely.
That's a good tip. Our son's bedroom has sliding glass doors and it gets pretty cold in there.
Yeah. I think you cut them to size, and so it might work for those, especially if you're like not going to be planning on going in and out of those doors in the winter time. But it always stays closed, then you might be able to get big enough for that too.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions they want to ask Colleen? Oh, and Colleen put down her email for you in the chat if you think of any other questions that you might have. I know there was a lot of information. If you want to find out more, you can reach out to her at her work email.
And I'll send you, I think I've added just a couple more things on my slides after I send them to you, so I can resend those so you can share these as well afterwards.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll send the slides out to you all after we're done. And thanks so much, Colleen, for doing the presentation. That was a lot of great information. Sorry. We hope to, and thanks to everybody else for joining us tonight. And we hope to see everybody at the next speaker series, which will be on Wednesday, November 1st, with guests from the village of Eklutna and Trout Unlimited. They will be speaking about the Eklutna Dena'ina people's pursuit for a free-flowing Eklutna river. And I'll have more information about that in the future, like pretty soon, and post it on our Facebook page. Yeah, well, thanks for coming. And hopefully you'll all be ready for the cold winter soon.
Ready as we ever get, right?
What's that?
Ready as we ever get.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't come too soon, but it did snow today in Talkeetna, which was kind of exciting. I was excited.
Okay. Thank you so much. Let me know if any more questions come in, June. I'll resend the slides to you.
Thanks so much, Colleen.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.